Well, hello there, and welcome back to Good in the Middle Way. I'm your host Rob, and I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome back. How have you been? I'm hoping this finds you well. Today we're going to be talking about a heavy topic, so trigger warning, we're going to be talking about trauma and how the middle way can help us through on our healing journey. Now, we're going to also cover big T trauma and little t trauma, which loosely defined are major events and several micro events, that compound on each other, and how these things can affect our lives. And there's this new term called CPTSD or complex PTSD, which I highly recommend you look into, as well as the work of Tim Fletcher, because in his view, everyone has some form of CPTSD. To varying levels, most people are functioning in this mild form, but it does drive some of their behaviors and personality, as well as like the people then who have real complex, not the other one's not real, but real heavy, that is complex trauma, and are really in these terrible behavioral patterns and feelings, and it's really intense. Trauma is big, and trauma affects us. It's definitely this, how would I say, feels like a buzzword these days if you're in the mental health space or in the YouTube mental health space. And it's really important that we, one, recognize trauma, and that trauma has happened and trauma exists. But also finding real helpful, resources that really get to the bottom of it. There is no magic bullet, there is no magic, cure. It's not a one and done thing. These things have happened to us and they carry with us for the rest of our lives. And it's really just how we interact and relate to that event or several events, and how we then incorporate those lessons that could be from those events into our lives. And also feeling our feelings, feeling them fully. You gotta feel it to heal it. That's what they say. I love that phrase. And we have to, go through that several times, and you might become, to a really good place, and then suddenly 8 months later, you're not having a really good week thinking about your trauma and stuff. And what the middle way offers, and through Buddhism, as we've been talking about the self, but we're gonna relate to how we are narrating our lives in our subscripts in our head, and how we're narrating those experiences and the things that happen to us. Are we writing ourselves as a victim in the story, which, right, it's trauma, so there's typically that. But like, at what level of victimhood are we going to go? And how much of our empowerment and how much of our own agency are we going to give up? And that is really important, because we're gonna tie it now back around, right, to the self. Okay, this self is always changing. This self, I can't pin it down. It conventionally exists as this kind of flowing thing, but it's not definitive, it's not defined. So if I don't like how I'm feeling through trauma and through, getting into these depressive spells about these traumas, I can change that. But there's a big catalyst, big asterisk, we have to also not negate that these things happened. If you ignore it, you will suffer more. If you ignore your trauma, if you pretend that it never happened and just kind of tuck it away, it will circle its way back around and manifest so nasty in your life. Like, it is really like a mold, And if you just let that thing sit in the back of your emotional place, the emotional place of you, it will mold and fester, and it will manifest into some negative behavior, some negative feeling, outburst, and many other things. Or the combination of those things. And that is, easily verifiable. It's definitely observed. I've definitely lived some of that, so I can attest, at least from my own point of view, that these things, do happen. And, some days it's okay to, be a little dismissive of things, and maybe you just don't have the energy to fully engage your feelings, and that's okay. But I'm talking about this long-term sort of, kind of getting into this fantasy land of just like, yeah, this terrible thing happened to me, but like, I'm fine. No, it's okay. I can handle it. I'm so tough. I'm so this. And eventually, as you always see, these people, we all break down. We have to address and heal and process these things that happened. So on the one hand, we have to be present because there's only now and later. We can't affect the past. Many of us wish we could, right? But we can't turn back time. So there is the now, in this moment, and later. But we have to respect our history and when the things that happen to us. In fact, to disregard it would be not taking good care of ourselves. If we disregard, let's say, well, I'm diabetic now, and I've ate all the sugar all my life, and now I have diabetes, but there's only now and later. It doesn't really matter this history that I have of all the sugar I ate, because that's what the sugar I'm eating now, which yes, that will spike your blood sugar in the now, but also there's these lasting consequences of abusing our bodies into, going about it in this way. So we have to have a healthy respect. We have to be able to walk in the middle way of, even this is conventional, this is not even Buddhist or fully Buddhist here, but walking this middle way of like, I have respect for the past and the things that have happened to me, and I realize that it should not fully hinder me or disable me in this moment, because there's only now and later. We can't really go back and change it. So, we have to also, so with the respect to that, we'll sit with it, we'll meditate, we'll think it over, we'll even have the fantasy, replay how you want things to go down. Maybe that car didn't flip. Maybe that accident didn't happen. Maybe you're a superhero and the people who beat you up, you beating them up or something, Like, we could spin it all these different ways, and, hopefully you can find that exercise to be helpful, actually, because that visualization, if you're a visualizer, could really, empower you, especially like over time, to change that feeling around the memory of the trauma. And, so there's plenty of reading from Gabor Mate. As I mentioned, Tim Fletcher, I'll put his YouTube channel down in the show notes. I think it's wonderful if you feel that you are suffering from PTSD, CPTSD. You might think, just curiously, go poke around in there, and I think you'll find a lot of really helpful, tools that he's giving out for free. And he's a wonderful soul, and thank you, Tim, for doing that. Now, back to the Buddhist thing. Walking this middle way, acknowledging our trauma, acknowledging this hurt that has happened to us, these deep wounds, that is a respect to, noble truth number one, the suffering of life, the suffering of existence, that there is suffering. And so those, easily aligned. And we could go down all the steps, all the truths, and then do, the Eightfold Path, which gives us a blueprint, right speech, right interaction, right view, all these things, it gives us a way forward for the later. It gives us a way of interacting, and at least a blueprint, because oftentimes with trauma, like, you may forget who you are, you may forget how to be, you may even question, like, it was being this way what got me into that situation. So you really might, I know for myself, like, it really became, at some point, like, I was so lost, and you could have molded me into anybody just about. I still obviously knew right from wrong and, societal rules, let's say, but I had totally lost myself. And it's important, one, because this is not losing myself in a way that was constructive, healthy, good, and towards enlightenment on the Buddhist path of realizing there's no self. No, this was a very, the selfhood that existed, that that is also viewed intrinsically, that's not there, but it's held and viewed that way, operating that way. That was just lost. and had no idea, and like, afraid to move forward, afraid to take a step. And that's really, it can be really tough. It can be really tough. But then you find really great material, and if this is still not your thing, that's totally fine. Connect with your spiritual upbringing or the one you're most interested in, because they're going to have a similar layout for a path forward to say, hey, do these things, do it this way, you're going to feel better and you're going to have a good life and things will improve. And that I believe, because there's also, with Buddhism, it's more a lifestyle in a way, because there's very few very specific philosophical things that are specific to Buddhism, but otherwise, it's in line with all the best religious teachings there, really, and Buddhism doesn't require you to give up your faith in a god or many gods. You could do all that, have that, and still, be practicing in the Buddhist way, which will be aligned with those gods' instructions. At least as far as I've researched and seen. In fact, they recently were again making the comparisons between Christ and the Buddha and the teachings and how to live. In fact, one tweet or something I read, it's actually on Threads, they said, if I fully practiced what Christ taught in the Bible, fully, I would be a Buddhist. Because that would be, people who are living that message in practice, So I can go on and on about this, and I'll make more episodes, because trauma, depression, mental illness, just afflicted mental states, they're very real. And Buddhism has so many answers for that. The middle way is so peaceful and so balanced that when dealing with these afflictions as they come up, or these painful memories and these things, we remember that we are not in this moment those memories. We remember we're not in that place anymore. You're in a same body, different location and space-time, and those things are not happening right now. And having these realizations and recognizing with grace, peace, comfort, and you got to give those things to yourself and take really good care of yourself all over these things, and really, start to give yourself the things that you unfortunately didn't get at the time that you needed it. You have to now, pick up the slack, and sorry, that's some of the work, but only you can do it. You're with yourself 24/7. There's the only one really capable of this job, of this task, is going to be you. So if you found this helpful and you find the channel helpful, as always, no pressure, but like, subscribe, share with a friend. Hopefully those that need to hear it will hear it, and it's there, and it's okay if they, if that's not your thing, it's all good. Really no pressure. I just want to help others, get us along, join us on the journey. So with that, I wish you peace. I wish you to be free of suffering, to just have a really pleasant week amidst the chaos of the world, to just have a moment to give yourself that rest and that pause that you need for yourself. And so we'll close with our favorite breath. Peace in and peace out. Thank you so much for being here, and until the next time, be well, and I'll see you there.